In this in-depth conversation, Dr. Shadé Zahrai explores the complexities of self-doubt, revealing its hidden drivers and offering a practical framework to reclaim self-trust. Drawing from decades of research and her own extensive work with thousands of leaders and teams worldwide, Shadé breaks down self-doubt into four core dimensions of self-image: acceptance, agency, autonomy, and adaptability, and guides listeners on how to identify and overcome these challenges. The discussion covers how self-doubt manifests, the neuroscience behind our beliefs and fears, dealing with impostor phenomenon, reframing personal narratives, embracing discomfort for growth, and strategies for developing confidence and resilience that will support listeners in creating the life and success they desire. Self-doubt is often misunderstood as a vague source of anxiety and insecurity, but Shadé clarifies that it stems from four distinct drivers linked to our self-image. These drivers combine to shape how we see ourselves and influence our internal voice of doubt. The foundational driver is self-acceptance, grounded in self-esteem, whether we perceive ourselves as worthy and valuable. Poor self-acceptance triggers behavioral patterns such as constantly needing to prove oneself, shrinking away from success, deriving validation from others' failures, and a relentless quest for approval. Understanding which driver is dominant empowers individuals to target their efforts appropriately. Since self-doubt doesn't fade with external success, it merely evolves alongside increased responsibility. Recognizing the voice of self-doubt, yet moving forward despite it, is a true measure of success and fulfillment. The conversation highlights the significant impact of self-image, supported by a classic psychological experiment from the 1970s involving a fabricated facial scar. Participants who believed they had a scar on their face experienced feelings of judgment and social rejection, regardless of whether others actually perceived the scar. This dramatizes the idea that our self-beliefs shape our perception of reality through confirmation bias. The brain filters and magnifies information consistent with existing beliefs. Early life experiences, particularly emotional support or conditional validation from parents and caregivers, form these deep-rooted self-images. Childhood messages that value performance above inherent worth lead to lifelong habits of seeking external validation. Though these beliefs are formed early, Shadé reassures listeners that they are not prisoners of their past and can consciously rewire these mental patterns through persistent effort. Self-acceptance is the first pillar and arguably the most fundamental. Shadé explains that a shaky sense of self-worth leads to the habit of attaching identity to achievements, roles, or how others perceive us. This can fuel perfectionism and imposter feelings, where success becomes a double-edged sword. It propels achievement, but rarely delivers satisfaction or peace. Listeners are encouraged to recognize that "I am not enough" is the core thought underlying many struggles. Rewiring begins by distinguishing the self from one's thoughts and beliefs, recognizing that beliefs are ingrained neural patterns that can be overwritten. A particularly effective tactic for interrupting self-focused negative spirals is self-forgetting, shifting attention from oneself to serving others, which quiets ego and anxiety. Shadé also underscores the importance of hobbies, especially creative or fulfilling ones, as a way to reinforce self-acceptance by valuing oneself outside of professional performance or external validation. The discussion probes the paradox of success driven by self-doubt. Many high achievers can trace chronic self-doubt back to childhood conditioning, where approval was earned through performance. While this can fuel extraordinary accomplishments, it often results in chronic dissatisfaction and the arrival fallacy, where reaching a goal doesn't bring the expected fulfillment. The difference between perfectionism and striving for excellence hinges on one's self-talk after failure. Perfectionism is marked by harsh self-judgment, whereas excellence is accompanied by reflective learning and growth. Purpose-driven ambition, grounded in a desire to serve rather than prove self-worth, cultivates healthier motivation and fosters sustained fulfillment. A critical distinction is drawn between confidence and self-trust. While most equate confidence as a prerequisite to action, research indicates confidence actually arises from successful action. Self-trust, believing you can handle whatever outcome unfolds, is the foundation that allows individuals to take risks despite uncertainty and doubt. Shadé describes confidence etymologically as with trust, reinforcing that trust in one's ability to navigate challenges trumps fleeting feelings of confidence. This mindset emboldens individuals to take imperfect steps forward rather than waiting for an elusive ready state that often never arrives. The conversation clarifies the concept popularly known as imposter syndrome, which is more accurately described in research as imposter phenomenon. It typically arises in high-achieving individuals who feel undeserving despite evident success, and involves both the feeling of being a fraud and having a proven track record that contradicts this belief. Shadé advises confronting imposter feelings head-on by acknowledging them and making them explicit, fostering psychological freedom and decreasing their power. Recognizing imposter feelings as a natural response to growth, particularly in unfamiliar territory, reframes them as a signal of intellectual humility rather than personal failure, which helps individuals stay engaged and courageous. Autonomy correlates with an internal locus of control, believing one can influence outcomes rather than being at the mercy of external forces. Shadé illustrates how people trapped in an external locus feel powerless, often complaining, blaming others, and reliving past hurts. These mental habits trap them in victimhood and emotional turmoil. In contrast, an internal locus fosters empowerment and proactive problem-solving by focusing on controllable aspects like thoughts, feelings, and actions. The transformative power lies in narrative re-identification, a process where individuals consciously rewrite the meaning they assign to past hardships, shifting from contamination stories, where trauma defines identity, to redemptive stories that emphasize growth and resilience. This reshaping of personal narratives allows individuals to carry their scars without being defined or limited by them. Central to the journey of overcoming self-doubt is developing tolerance and even an embrace of discomfort. Shadé contrasts two metaphors: cows that avoid storms only to endure prolonged hardship, and bison that face storms head-on and move through them more swiftly. Choosing the bison mindset means acknowledging life's difficulties and engaging with them intentionally rather than avoiding or suppressing pain. Exposure to controlled discomfort builds resilience, rewires the brain with new learning pathways, and makes the next challenge easier to face. This mindset shift is crucial for sustained growth, especially when paired with intentional preparation and pragmatic anticipation of obstacles, including developing contingency plans for foreseeable roadblocks. The final pillar, adaptability, focuses on guiding emotional responses rather than attempting to suppress them. Shadé describes practical strategies for managing anxiety and nervousness, such as the 3-second spiral stop, where individuals pause, acknowledge their emotional brain's natural threat response, and consciously regulate their reactions by starting small and building momentum in challenging situations. Managing emotions also involves assertiveness techniques in interpersonal scenarios, such as responding gracefully when a coworker takes credit for one's work, turning moments of conflict into opportunities for clear, calm communication. Recognizing the difference between feeling anxious and claiming fixed identity traits, I am anxious versus I am noticing anxiety, allows cognitive diffusion, where one separates the self from transient thoughts and feelings, reducing their power. Shadé offers actionable responses for common triggers of self-doubt. For example, handling job loss through creating actionable I could and I will lists rewires focus from helplessness to agency. In moments of negative social feedback or comparison, shifting mindset from envy to emulation encourages learning rather than judgment. When facing criticism or self-criticism, recognizing underlying wounds allows for compassionate self-acceptance. Cultivating habits of gratitude for progress made and reframing setbacks as data for learning rather than defining failures supports continued momentum. Purpose is deeply woven into Shadé's outlook, with caring for others and fostering meaningful connection being core motivators. This orientation toward service not only quiets self-focused doubts, but also creates a powerful internal compass for decision-making and action. The idea of leaving each person and situation better than you found them emphasizes impact grounded in kindness and growth, reinforcing self-trust through contributions beyond self-interest. An important theme throughout is the power of language in shaping identity. Shadé encourages listeners to notice labels they assign themselves, e.g., I am boring, I am a procrastinator, and gently replace them with positive, growth-focused alternatives. She advocates for replacing should with could to open mental space for possibilities and reduce resistance. Adjusting the way we describe emotions, e.g., from I am emotional to I am passionate, transforms external perception and internal experience, fostering greater adaptability and agency. Throughout the dialogue, self-trust emerges as the essential foundation beneath all efforts to overcome doubt and build confidence. While feelings of doubt are inevitable, especially during growth and change, cultivating trust in one's ability to manage setbacks and continuously learn is what propels progress. Shadé's framework offers listeners a structured approach to dissect their self-doubt and leverage the four pillars to develop practical resilience strategies. The insights are wrapped in engaging stories from Shadé's personal journey, client examples, and well-researched psychological concepts, making the content both accessible and deeply transformational for anyone committed to rewiring their inner dialogue before stepping into new opportunities in 2026 and beyond.